Welcome to the Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva, and today we're going to get some insight into the NAIA. My guest today is Morgan El-Attrache, and she is the manager of legislative services for the NAIA. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited.
Yeah, so Morgan, usually I start my guests where they went to college. So where'd you go to school?
So I actually went to an NCAA school due to Washburn University. It's in Topeka, Kansas, and I played soccer there, and I loved it.
Great. So let's just go into high school before we get into the NAIA. When did you start thinking about going to college? Was it freshman year of high school, senior year? When did it all begin for you?
So I grew up watching Texas A&M women's soccer, and since then I just knew I wanted to play soccer in college. Like, there was no question. So I just always knew that I was going to go to college just because I wanted to play soccer, really, and never really thought about the academic side until I got to college. But that's really just what my plan was my entire childhood.
So now you go to college. What's it like? What did you think about the school when you got there?
Yeah, so I think every freshman has that first couple of weeks where they're like, whoa, they're adjusting, they're a little bit homesick. But then, especially playing at college athletics, when you are dealing with preseason and playing with an entire new team and just trying to, find your little friends and just fit in, it is a lot to take in at first, but then it really just works itself out, and you learn that that's just where you're meant to be. And yeah, it takes a little bit to just kick in, but once it clicks, then you're ready to go.
So, and all 4 years you played soccer there?
Yes, all 4 years.
All right. So then you graduate from college. How does one graduate from college and end up as the manager of legislative services for the NAIA?
Yeah, so I graduated from Washburn, and then I actually went to law school at Washburn too. And during my law school experience, I was an intern for Washburn Athletics compliance. And so I did a little bit of compliance in the NCAA for their athletic department. And I just really loved dealing with, eligibility and things that student athletes go through compliance wise, and just trying to help them sort it out and make sure all the coaches are remaining in compliance with the NCAA bylaws. So with that experience, I just loved it because I played soccer there, so it was kind of natural in a way to me. And so then when I graduated law school, I found that the NAIA was hiring in legislative/compliance. And so with law and my experience as a college athlete, that just fit perfectly. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna try it out. And then I started working a little over a year ago, and now we're here. So
wow. So now tell me the difference between the NAIA and the NCAA.
yeah, so the NAIA is obviously we have 200 around 252 schools, and they're significantly smaller faith-based schools compared to the NCAA, who has multiple divisions and just hundreds of schools.
So the biggest difference is just the number of schools. Are the rules the same? Are the rules different?
The rules are not the same, but I really love the NAIA bylaws, and that is just one of my favorite things about the NAIA, because our bylaws are simple, they just work, and it allows schools to really comprehend them and apply them to their student athletes and their student athletes eligibility. And with the NCAA, there's different divisions. So the NCAA has different bylaws for D1, D2, D3, and with the NAIA, we're basically all one division. The school performance level in athletics could be different, but it's just across the line, all one division. So all of our bylaws apply equally across the board compared to like
Gotcha.
NCAA with the different divisions.
Now, does the NAIA have any differences for the students themselves that go to those schools? Is there an eligibility center like the NCAA? Is there ways of going to the particular school? How does it work for the student?
Yes, so we do have an eligibility center, and it is such an awesome process, I believe. And all my colleagues that work in the eligibility center, they are so helpful, and you get that. I'm not too sure what it is like with the NCAA initially going through, but student athletes are able to reach directly out to my colleagues and help them get all their transcripts in. And I know that the eligibility center does outreaches to schools as well, high schools, and gives their student athletes a whole rundown of like what the whole eligibility center process would be. And it is like a very comprehensive process going to the eligibility center. And I think it makes it easy for student athletes to understand and just know what they need to do in order to get an eligible decision.
Now, is there a cost to go into the eligibility center? I know that the NCAA has some type of cost that students have to pay to get an eligibility number of some sort.
Yes, there is a cost, and that is a good eligibility center question. But it's completely reasonable cost.
Okay, so what are some of the schools that are NAIA? Do you have a list of a couple of schools that people might recognize?
Yeah, Baker University. Well, I'm just because I live in Kansas, so I feel like people would recognize all the Kansas schools, but I know.
Sure.
Baker University, Mid-American Nazarene. We have a lot of like Texas Wesleyan University, Iowa Wesleyan University, Georgia Gwinnett, Point Park University, Point University, Park University. We are really it's all over.
So are they on almost every state, or are they majority in the center of the country and south?
I believe we are very all across the board. I want to say
Wow.
not every state, but there's definitely we have all of our conferences are spread pretty wide.
Now, how does it work with the NAIA? How do they get their name recognized out there? How do the schools find students? How does it work?
Yeah, so well, our recruiting process is we're still evolving in our recruiting process, but I think it is our bylaws that involve recruiting. It's amazing. We don't have like the clock like the NCAA has, the recruiting calendar. And so in high school, if our coaches are able to go watch them and recruit them normally, and they are not subject to any type of timeline like the
So,
NCAA, I think.
so is there a pattern of how it all works? Give me a sense. If I'm a student athlete in high school and I want to go to Baker University, how does it work for that student? What do I do?
So my best advice, and I did this when I was in high school too, if you're about to play in a tournament or you have games coming up, then easily like write an email to these coaches and just say, hey, I'm looking at your institution's website, and I want to know more information about being a student athlete there. I play here on this date. I would love for you to come watch me. And I would just reach out just like that. And you can really make a nice template for yourself. Just like, I'm so and so, and then give all your information, your grades, your GPA, just your athletic accomplishments, and just send emails out to NAIA schools, and they would love to just hear them and then act on them. They would love to come watch you play.
Now, and the schools, do they have, just like NCAA schools, do they have scholarships? Do they have money or merit money or anything like that that they offer students?
Yes, definitely. We have scholarships. But what the coolest thing about the NAI is we allow our institutions a lot of autonomy. So they really just decide how they want to allocate their scholarships.
Okay, so is it a set amount of scholarships for each sport? How does that work?
Yeah, it so like because it is more governed by the institutions themselves, I'm not exactly too sure, but yeah, it would just depend on what universities sponsors each sport they have.
Uh-huh. Now, how many different sports are there in NAIA schools? Are they just as many as NCAA schools?
Yes, yeah, we have um
What are some of the
not looking
sports that the NAIA cover?
so we have the normal, football, men, women basketball, men's, women's soccer, the basic, um, more popular sports. We also added competitive cheer and dance. We were the first athletic association to competitive cheer and competitive dance as a
Wow.
championship sport. So that's new. We also have we just our beach volleyball, women's beach volleyball is a new sport that we just added. It's an invitational to year two, so it's really new, fairly new, but it's working its way up to championship sport.
Now, do you have how many sports altogether would you say? There are about 20 different sports that are at NAIA schools?
Yes, that sounds right. Without looking it up
A list.
specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
There's
so now, a student that's going to school, at any of these schools, what can they expect? What are some of the benefits of going to an NAIA school?
So I think just on the academic side, since we are smaller, we have smaller schools in our association. Just the class sizes, you can expect to be a name and not a number, and you can expect to know your professors and get that one-on-one help and connection with them and the resources for the future as well. So that on the academic side, and then on the athletic side, basically it's really the same thing. You have an athletic department that you can go into, and you can walk into anyone's office, doors open. In the sports teams, since it is such a small environment, so for example, the women's soccer team could be best friends with the men's basketball team, and they could just in their 4 years just go to each other's games and support each other and just know each other on a closer level than I feel like would happen at a bigger institution.
Yeah, and you have that comparison because you played at an NCAA school,
Mhm.
so now you see it at the NAIA level.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
So now, how does the NAIA promote themselves? What do they do um, to get their name out there, other than, of course, the show?
Yeah.
What do they do to get their name out there?
Um, just through, the local high schools, just m planning events with them and, uh, I mean, even with the name, image, and likeness, that's been a huge thing for us to have passed, because that is just a really big incentive to go to NAIA school, because you are able to be paid as a student athlete and for your name, image, and likeness.
Now,
And
are the levels the same anywhere? I mean, you could get paid at all the different schools. I know that the NCAA have football players that make millions of dollars in NIL endorsements. Um, I'm assuming they're not going to be that kind of level at the NAIA level.
right, but there is a lot of opportunity there, especially I keep mentioning how it's a smaller environment with the local businesses.
Hmm.
That is like a key, because there's just a small community, and being able to support both the athletic department, the student athletes, and the local business is huge. Um, Not nearly as much as like NCAA D1, but it is like a very great opportunity.
Yeah. So, is that one of the benefits that you promote to students when they're going to recruit some of the students at their homes and talking to the students?
Yeah, I do think that is a huge selling point. I'm trying to think of other things that when recruiting would be good to mention, but is so much more of like the coach's institutional level, like based on the different institution and
Yeah,
what they bring
and
to the
of
table.
course the atmosphere of the school, where it's located,
Mhm.
just what the student is looking for. Some students are just are taking the sport because they can get money to play at the college level, but they really just want to graduate so they get a good job after school. That's really the main goal for any student that goes on to college, is for having them to graduate and go on and get a good job after school.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So is there a lot of networking events that happen at the universities as well?
Yeah, I do believe, and like again, that is more institutional level, but
Mhm.
definitely. Are you saying like career, uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
career events? Yeah, I believe like most colleges do
We'll
have
have
those
that.
career
So
sessions.
what exactly does legislative services do at the NAIA? What are some of your key points that you do?
So me and my supervisor, Brenda White, are the we help the schools understand the bylaws, and we work with our governing committees in order to legislate the language and um, just edit and like rules education. We do a lot of rules education for our schools, and that is a big thing that is great for in the NAI, is that any institution right now can pick up the phone and call me or my supervisor and ask an eligibility question or a question based off the bylaws. And you don't really see much of that at the NCAA level, especially like with the NCAA national office. You can't really pick up a phone and call them, but any
Yeah.
of our schools can reach us in the office, and we are able to give them just one-on-one advice based off their situation that they are experiencing and the questions that they have.
So what are some of the bylaws or rules that a lot of schools call you up and say, I need some help with? Can you name one or two of them?
Yeah, so in the NAI, you have to get 24, if you're a semester school, you have to earn 24 credits in your most two full-time terms of attendance, which if you're enrolled full-time, 12 hours one semester, 12 hours and the next semester, you can meet that easily. And so we get a lot of questions just based on that. If, for instance, a student athlete only earns 9 credits in one semester, and 12 in the other, they kind of ask, what are the ways that we can help them gain eligibility back and stuff like that. We also get a lot of questions about transferring and just the recruiting part when student athletes are able to reach out to other schools, and the answer is can. We don't restrict them in any way, so they're free to reach out. And we
So
also
transferring from school to school is pretty simple then at the NAIA level.
It is, yes. The only nuance is once a student reaches out to another NAIA institution, that NAIA institution is required to notify the student's current institution that they reached out. But other than that, we really don't restrict student athletes, and it's really easy, fairly easy to transfer.
And students that have less credits and things of that sort, is there like summer school that they take or summer classes or something like that?
Yes, there is. You can use up to 12 summer credits in order to help with the 24-hour rule and meet the eligibility requirements. We also have a case process that if a student experiences a hardship or an extenuating circumstance that inhibited them from meeting the academic requirements, they're able to request an exception, and it allows our governing committees to look at the students' hardships and grant an exception based off the hardships.
And graduating wise, I'm assuming it's a high graduating rate. Do you see a lot of students graduating from NAIA schools?
Yeah, absolutely. That is more on like the academic side, but just in general, I think athletics helps so much with that, having structure and discipline, and because if you're an athlete, you have to meet the eligibility requirements in order to play. So that
Right.
is really a huge incentive to make sure that you are staying on top of your grades.
And they're like any other university. You need what is it? 120 credits, 128 credits to graduate. Is that somewhere in the ballpark?
Yes, yeah, that does sound right, because we do have a lot of graduate students too who compete, and they have already met the 120 credits.
And do they have the same eligibility as the NAIA? Do you get 5 years of playing?
No, that's a great question. That is the biggest thing that I love about the NAIA, is that we don't have that 5-year clock like the NCAA. We allow for 10 semester terms or 15-year quarter school. So, but I just really like to explain off semesters. So 10 semesters and 4 total seasons in a given sport. And those don't have to be consecutive. So if you have a break in enrollment, you don't have to worry about your clock running out. You just have 9 semesters left, or
Oh,
how many semesters. So we have a lot of non-traditional athletes because of that reason, and students being able to compete if they have terms and seasons left.
wow, fantastic. Well, we're coming to the end of our show, and usually I ask my guests, what advice do you want to give to the parents and the students that are watching this that want to come to NAIA schools? What advice do you want to give them?
Yeah, I would say, just as a student athlete and now more on the administrative side, I would just say it's called student athlete for a reason. Just keep up with your grades and you have nothing to worry about. And you only get 4 seasons and then you're done. So just grades is important, and just make sure that you put that first and don't rely solely on athletics, and because you have the rest of your life ahead of you. And also, that being said, you get 4 years and then you're done. So just have that in mind, that you have the rest of your life ahead of you after the 4 years, and just make the best of it.
Great. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is great.
Yeah. So you've been watching The Secrets of College Planning. I'm your host, Anthony Uva. Until next time.